Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's evening edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Satellite imagery out west, the next system bringing wind and rain, wind gusting 40 to 55 miles per hour there across Adak and on in toward Atka with the warmer temperatures, precipitation mostly in the form of rain out there, a break, and then some showers poised to move into the Shemya area. Not a bad day here, pretty clear along the fall from Bristol Bay up the coastline. Ice covering Norton Sound there, and also a fair amount of ice here out to Nunivak Island on down into northern Bristol Bay. Otherwise, clear cold temperatures, cold air pouring through Kamishak Bay over the Aleutian Range, blasting right across Kodiak Island. Winds gusting 60 to 85 miles per hour there today. That cold air picking up some moisture right out through here, and then low pressure farther to the north, right about in that position, circulating more moisture. Another band right through here, bringing some snow into Seward and Portage this afternoon. Look like some light stuff extending a little farther to the north there. Also had some snow Cordova and Yakutat today, but winds on the increase over the Valdez area. Otherwise, the Panhandle saw precipitation mostly in the form of snow today, more of a steadier condition up here where the clouds are thicker. Over the northern areas, more showery down to the south. And then this next batch of moisture, really convection here, will develop into a system and move on up to the northeast. But for today, you can see the trough that moved through today there, then a break, and then this next developing mass of clouds off to the southwest, the low in the Gulf of Alaska, and again pulling some moisture to the west. Otherwise, flurries on the decrease here up over the interior, areas of light snow, more extensive this morning, that beginning to diminish and shift off to the east as the afternoon wore on. That extended right up to the eastern Arctic coast. Pretty good conditions back to the west, mostly just clouds with not much in the way of any flurries or fog. High pressure, cold temperatures, north slope right on down, entrenched across the southwest there, and including Bristol Bay, but high clouds already making the scene there toward Nunivak Island, and those winds on the increase from the south over the Pribilofs, and then gale force winds over the central Aleutians. And we'll see for tonight, the system in right about here links up with the main low center, and another frontal system forms. Could see some mixture. It could go either way to start with here over the southern Panhandle tonight. Looks like periods of snow up to the north, light snow with winds on the increase there, especially through Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay areas. But there are winter weather advisories out for the southern southeast coast. So this evening, after midnight, it'll probably be mostly in the form of snow. And of course, with any elevation at all down there, it will be snow. But winds not expected to be too strong in that area. But up Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, quite a gradient here with 1,004 millibar low in the Gulf, 1,043 millibar high up there, somewhere around the Brooks Range. So the gradient right through here. High wind warnings out for the Thompson Pass and Valdez area until 9 a.m. Sunday morning for winds gusting 80 to 90 miles per hour. Pretty windy conditions, wind chill advisories out for the Susitna Valley, especially up toward Broad Pass for wind chills 35 to 50 below zero. That same pattern right across the Copper River Basin and the eastern Alaska Range there. But winds coming down for Kodiak Island and really getting light here for Bristol Bay are continuing that way, as well as the southwest coast. Mostly clear skies, temperatures well below zero out here to the west and north, and a few flurries there from Tin City up to Point Hope, Cape Lisburne. But for the most part, the north slope looking pretty good as offshore flow starts to develop. Look for some snow changing to mixed rain and snow for the Pribilofs here as that front edges eastward. Again, the south-north flow there. They'll definitely bring warmer temperatures in. So looks like Nikolsky will see an increased chance of the precipitation late tonight. Rain and snow showers falling in the front and behind. And then for tomorrow, this system slides off to the southeast here. It's low center about this position. So that's going to make for the moisture rotating up over the colder air coming southward. Snow situation there. Again, winter weather advisories out for areas of the southern southeast coast. To the north, colder, drier, definitely windier up here over the northern interior areas. Gusts of 65 knots for northern Lynn Canal, and also good wind gusts coming out of the Copper River Delta. Also stronger gusts for Prince William Sound. But winds coming down here for Kodiak Island, continuing to drop off, as well as for Cook Inlet and the North Gulf Coast. Most of the snow shower activity off the coast there, as opposed to today. This should stay down to the south of the Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound. Still got some cold air picking up moisture here from Kamishak Bay across the Barrens. That may only affect Fognak Island, but definitely not Seldovia out of it. And clear and cold over the interior areas. Once again, tomorrow's highs even well below zero, and partly cloudy conditions for the Arctic coast up here. Most of the fog and flurries should be off to the north, and then increasing winds as well as increasing chance of snow here, mostly for Nunivak Island, and snow changing to rain there for the Alaska Peninsula with winds on the increase and gales for the eastern Aleutians. Snow showers now shift into the central Aleutians. Looking ahead to Monday, that low pressure area develops along the old frontal boundary there and cuts off and drops into western Bristol Bay. So west-southwest winds, snow showers mostly on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula area. Chance of snow into Bristol Bay. Warm front heading toward Kodiak Island, so definitely a warm up in the temperatures there. Could start out as snow, then gradually changing to rain, especially as the warm front gets a little farther to the north. Otherwise, chance of showers, increase in the clouds to the North Gulf Coast as the whole wind flow pattern changes now here. So look for a little bit of an increase in the moisture for Monday, but really at this point doesn't look like anything significant. Otherwise, dry and cold over the interior, locally breezy here. Places like Delta on eastward, still windy for the northern southeast coast, but not quite as windy as it will be tomorrow. Lighter winds on down to the south, but good VFR, clear skies through the entire southeast coast as well as the interior, right up to the Arctic coast and beyond. Good VFR extending out to probably St. Lawrence Island. Some of this with the original front here, light snow. That'll be more of a risk for Gamble than it will be for Savunga. And out to the west, really no storminess to speak of, just a flat ridge of high pressure centered well to the south of the Aleutians. So areas of light precipitation rotating through that with milder temperatures. The next system still way out to the west. Temperatures across the southeast coast this afternoon, mostly in the 30s, 37 Sitka, 35 at the state capital, Skagway at 31, 33 both at Klawock and up at Yakutat. Prince William Sound, Valdez had 23 degrees, 29 Cordova, 18 in Seward with snow, 20 down in Homer, 16 in Kenai, 14 Palmer, 13 up at Talkeetna, Chilitna. Winds gusting to 50 miles per, or actually up close to 60 miles per hour this afternoon. Cold air coming southward, winds on the increase, Talkeetna this afternoon, and probably will be a little bit here into northern Cook Inlet. Otherwise, north of the mountains, temperatures staying well below zero in the 15 to 20 degree below range this afternoon. Northway, though, at minus 11, McGrath minus 9, and farther up to the North Sea at 31 below at Bettles, but minus 2 at Fort Yukon. More clouds there. Arctic Village 12 below, and the Arctic coast minus 13 over at Dead Horse. 3 below at both Kaktovik and Barrel, while Point Lay pushed up to 1 above. Otherwise, Kivalina 13 below, Ambler minus 21, Kotzebue milder with 7 below, 8 below there at Nome. 21 Savunga and a 0 both at St. Michael and Unalakleet. 1 degree there at Sleepmute, 2 above at Bethel. At Macoriac, just 3 above 0. Otherwise, mid to upper 30s there. Those south winds warming it up already there for the Pribilofs. near and into the lower 40s over the central and western Aleutians, cooling into the upper 20s to lower 20s to mid-teens up toward King Salmon, just 18 degrees with those strong winds at Kodiak. Lows for tonight, again, 25 to 35 below up over the north central interior areas of the north slope, dropping below zero south of the Alaska Range here into the Sitna Valley. Kenai around 5 below, teens for the North Gulf Coast, including Seward and Cordova, 20s for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow, again quite cold, especially north of the Alaska Range, teens and minus 20s there for the Tanana Valley too. 25 to 35 below for the Koyukuk Valley, eastern north slope area, and pretty chilly temperatures all the way down to the southwest coast, right around 20 for Macoriac, 40 for the Pribilofs and the Aleutians, lower 30s for the Panhandle, except mid-20s to the north as cold air moves southward. And for the flying weather, IFR up here with the moisture later tonight, continuing here for the northern Panhandle, and then marginal VFR in the increase throughout the night for the southern areas. Otherwise, pretty good VFR over the interior. This continuing to dissipate and slowly move off, and IFR with the system coming in toward the Pribilofs and the eastern Aleutians tomorrow. Quite a widespread area IFR from the Fox Islands to St. Matthew Island. VFR, though, for St. Lawrence Island, right down the southwest coast of Bristol Bay, and maybe a patch of marginal stuff over the interior. Otherwise, looking pretty good. Marginal VFR tomorrow. Lowest conditions probably will be down over the southern areas. Anatuvik and Adigan, both VFR tomorrow, as is Lake Clark, Merrill, and Rainy. Good VFR for all of the Alaska Range. Windy, Isabel and Montesta, wide open. Tanita, VFR. Portage, definitely VFR. Chilcoot and White, VFR. And for the freezing levels at the surface here, way down to the south, those strong northwest winds driving that cold air into the western Gulf of Alaska. A little bit farther to the north here, but still 2,000 feet there south of the Queen Charlottes now. And out to the west, not much difference. Little area 2,000 feet nudging northward here on those southerly winds in advance of the front. Then for icing, areas of occasionally light to moderate, occasional light to moderate here in the form of rime icing from the eastern Aleutians up across the Pribilofs towards St. Lawrence Island, but probably not quite reaching it. Otherwise, icing free through the interior from Kodiak to Barrow, and maybe some icing above about 4,000 feet there for the southern southeast coast. Our upper jet stream, sharp ridge right through this area here, north to northwest, 70 knots, sailing down across Kodiak Island yet by midday tomorrow. Upper level low over the Panhandle, shifting eastward, allowing that colder air to drive southward into the northern areas. 9,000 foot winds, 15 to 20 knots here at 9,000 feet over the northern Panhandle. More lighter and variable, but generally an offshore flow to the south. And lighter winds now for the North Gulf Coast area, Kenai Peninsula, still up to 30 knots there coming across the Alaska Range, turning east at about the same speed. That front coming into the coast there, nudging up against the high. So a narrow band of southeasterlies, 40 to 50 knots there, replaced by westerlies at 30, southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, 3,000 feet, much the same pattern. Westerlies, 30 knots, lighter winds behind the front, 40 to 50 knots south-southeast in advance of the front, coming into the southwest coast and St. Lawrence Island, picking up to 30 knots right through here, even into Kotzebue Sound and Chukchi Sea. Lighter, more variable under the high. East-northeast, 10 to 20, so coming down considerably here along the North Gulf Coast. Kodiak Island, stronger to start with, coming down to 20 to 30. Light winds over the southern Panhandle, northeast at about 20 to the north. And for turbulence, occasional moderate chop there, mechanical stuff, northern Panhandle, all of the North Gulf Coast, right up to the southern slopes of the eastern Alaska Range, into Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, but improving here for Kodiak Island. And another area moderate chop at that front and the stronger winds there, the southwest coast, Nunivak Island, gradually moving eastward to about something like this by later in the afternoon tomorrow, also along the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Now, there are 6 other categories of weather phenomenon that are reported when they occur, and here's an example of one right here. You see this dust out here? That's an example of a really shifty wind with lots of changing around. That might be an example of a squall. What is the definition of a squall, you might want to know? Well, a squall is a sudden increase in wind speed of at least 16 knots, sustained at 22 knots or more for at least 1 minute. Holy mackerel, are you going to remember that definition? Probably not. It's very close to gustiness. What's the difference between a squall and a gust? Well, it's the duration of the terror. A gust is an abrupt change in the wind and doesn't last very long. A squall has the sustained wind speed, and that's the difference between the two. Now, let's take a look at the abbreviation. Squalls last at least 1 minute. Now, SQ stands for squall. FC is a funnel cloud. That makes sense, but that's one that has not touched the ground. If it's touched the ground, it's plus FC. Then it becomes a tornado or a water spout. DS stands for dust storm. SS stands for sandstorm. PO is a dust or sand whirl, otherwise known as a dust devil. Now, how in the Sam Hill are we going to remember that? Well, if you get caught in an airplane in a dust devil or a sand whirl or dust whirl, there's lots of grit flying around and it might just polish off your aircraft. So think of PO, polished off, and that is a dust devil, and that's your way of remembering it. Now, sometimes you might have something like rain, as we have here, but it might be helpful to know a little bit more about that rain or obstruction of visibility, whatever it might be. For instance, is that rain coming from a thunderstorm or a shower? That'd be interesting to know. So they have descriptors, and there are 8 descriptors. Here are 5 of them. TS stands for thunderstorm. SH stands for showers. FZ is freezing. BL is blowing, and DR is low drifting. Now that makes an awful lot of sense. Even I understand it. Now, in case you're wondering what's the difference between blowing and low drifting, it's a matter of height. If dust or sand or snow is raised by the wind to less than 6 feet, then it's low drifting, or DR. But if it's raised to a height of more than 6 feet, then it's BL, or blowing. Now, you'll only see these descriptors used with dust, sand, and snow, and the only descriptor that's used with spray, by the way, is BL. Now, here are 3 more descriptors. These are only used with fog, or FG. First of all, MI is shallow. Once more, you're beginning to suspect that you're going to get a French lesson, aren't you? Well, you are. It comes from the French word mince. And if you want to help remember that, you can use the English word minimal. It's shallow. It's not very high. It's minimal in height. MI. I'm sorry, folks. That's the best we could do. That's all we could think of. PR is partial. BC is patches. Once again, you're beginning to suspect you're going to get a French lesson. Well, it comes from the French word bon. But we're going to use something different to remember it. Because it's patches of fog, think of it as little bits and chunks of fog. That's the best we could do. BC, bits and chunks of fog, patches of fog.
Now remember that present weather is what's blowing around or falling out of the sky. And I would guess that this thunderstorm has a lot of present weather falling out of it. Let's take a look at how the present weather in a METAR is presented. The present weather is in this format or order. First of all, you've got the intensity or proximity. And what that is how bad or how close. Then what you've got is the descriptor. Remember, the descriptor is things like shallow, drifting, or showers. Then you have precipitation, things like rain, snow, drizzle. Then you have obscuration, which is fog, mist, stuff like that. And other weather, which includes miscellaneous things, but important things like dust storms and tornadoes. The intensity or the proximity can be combined in the same METAR observation, but they have to be in separate groups. Let's talk about the intensity. Intensity means how bad. How bad is the precipitation? Because intensity refers only to precipitation. Now, the intensity symbols are a dash, meaning that you have light precipitation, a plus for heavy precipitation, and if you have no sign at all, that means you have moderate precipitation. The intensity code always refers to the first type of precipitation. Other types of precipitation that may be present are then listed in the order of decreasing dominance. So let's assume that you have rain, you have snow, you have drizzle, and the observer decides that the snow is more dominant than the drizzle. The coding might look like this. You would have 4 statute miles. If the rain is light rain, we would have a dash light rain, SN for snow, and DZ for drizzle. So we have 4 statute miles visibility with light rain, snow, and drizzle. And that dash for light precipitation, because it refers to the first type of precipitation, is referring to the rain, not to the snow or to the drizzle. Now, you can always be sure that the precipitation is going to be listed in the order of decreasing effect on your flight. Now, intensity, as I said, always refers to precipitation or certain obscuration types. It does not refer to descriptors like thunderstorms, showers, freezing, blowing, or drifting. For instance, what we're saying here is the visibility is 3 statute miles with light rain, because rain is the precipitation. That is not light thunderstorm. It's light rain and thunderstorm, or thunderstorm with light rain, as it would be read to you. There is no such thing as a light thunderstorm. Now, METAR does not include a way to encode severe thunderstorms, but personally, I consider them all to be severe. Actually, the severity of a thunderstorm can be inferred from the other elements that are reported along with thunderstorms. Look for the strength of the wind and the gustiness of it, the presence of hail, lightning, and other weather associated with thunderstorms. By the way, TS for thunderstorm is the one descriptor that can be reported by itself without other weather if there's no precipitation occurring. And the reason this is possible is because how weather observers report a thunderstorm. They report a thunderstorm when the first lightning or thunder is detected at the station. The rain may not have started yet, so it is possible to have a thunderstorm with no precipitation. I wouldn't count on that condition to continue for long, but it does happen.
Welcome back. Marine forecast here. North 45 knots, gusts up to 65 knots, northern Lincoln, freezing spray up in that area. Gales for Stevens Passage, southeast 20 for Clarence Strait, and again, variable to south, really give or take on this wind direction down here, but only about 20 knots, these 15 feet. Small craft advisories here for the remainder of the coast from the east-northeast, seas running 12 to 15. And then for Monday, lighter winds across this area, 15 to 20 knot northerlies there on the south coast, east-northeast, only at about 20 knots up to the north. Those seas way down now, especially up here on the north side, just 6 to 7 feet. Still holding on to the 45 knot northerlies, at least to start the day out Monday there for northern Lynn Canal, 30 knots Stevens Passage, and north or so for Clarence Strait. And for Prince William Sound, north winds 20, tomorrow seas 4 feet. Definitely higher gusts out of the bays and paths with that high wind warning out for Valdez tonight into tomorrow. Small craft advisories for Cook Inlet. Gales now coming down Kamishak Bay, and also for the Barrens down to 40 knots here, even on the east side of Kodiak Island. North Gulf Coast, north to northwest 25. And then for Monday, northeast, light winds, Prince William Sound, northern Cook Inlet, 20 knotters here south of the Forelands through Shelikof Strait, south 20, east side of Kodiak, and these winds coming down solely on the small craft advisory there for the western North Gulf Coast. Bristol Bay, northeast 20 tomorrow, south to southeast, 30 to 35 knots for the peninsula, and gales starting out here from Sitkinak toward Castle Cape, dropping down to 20 knots later tomorrow afternoon. And then for Monday, southwest 25 to 35 here for the Alaska Peninsula, strongest on the north side, east 30 knots for Bristol Bay, and southwest 25 up towards Sitkinak. Aleutians ahead of that front coming across tonight to about this position tomorrow afternoon. So gales in advance of the front, much lighter, more west-southwesterly, and then picking back up to 30 knots here to the west. Then for Monday, southwest 25 out here for the far western zone, westerlies 20 knots coming down there for the central Aleutians, and northwest now 35 knots north of Unalaska Island, westerlies to the south. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, gale warning, southeasterlies 30 to 40 knots, 45 knot easterlies for St. Lawrence Island down into the northern Bering Sea, southeast 40 for the Pribilofs. Then those turn northwest 30 knots for the day Monday there. Variable winds, actually that should be 15 knots there with the 9-foot seas, kind of a variable lighter wind condition here. East 30 for St. Lawrence Island, right on down to Nunivak Island, a little lighter to the south. Eastern Arctic coast, west-southwest at 10 to south 15 for the central coast. A little brisker here in the west side with Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, southerlies at 25. And then for Monday, those winds increase considerably from Wales on up to Cape Beaufort, southeast 30 knots, dropping back here western and central coast, and east 15 for the entire east side. And for tonight, again, moisture moving into the southern panhandle. Winter weather advisories there, probably mostly in the form of snow, briefly rain. Anyway, light snow continues to the north as those northerly winds increase. High wind warning for Valdez to Thompson Pass, 60 to 85 mile-an-hour wind gusts. And winds gradually coming down for Kodiak Island, otherwise clear and cold. Wind chill advisories to Sitna Valley eastward. And this front approaching the Pribilofs. Again, gale force winds tomorrow. Gales here coming into the eastern Aleutians with rain, clear and cold over the interior. This system sliding off to the south and southeast. Snow over the southern panhandle, drier to the north with a lot of wind, cold temperatures. And then for Monday, still clear and cold over much of the interior. Low develops on that front and brings some snow into Bristol Bay and moisture into Kodiak.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.